new microphone today, so I've got no idea what the sound's going to be like. Do let me know please in the chat if you're there. It would be good to get some feedback. Am I too loud? Am I too quiet? Should I just shut up? Today I am having a little look at the add JavaScript processor pull request. This has been open for long, I would say. Hi brothers, hi sisters, hi mothers and fathers, hi children, if you're one of them. Yeah, this has just been open for ages. Opened up originally by Kai, username Kabuki, if that's how you pronounce it. Really cool. This uses a library called Goja.251 Goja. So this has been on my radar for a little while. Looks very, very cool. Basically just literally execute JavaScript. I'm quiet. Okay, hold on. I can probably fix that. Give me a minute. The problem I've got right now is that also my proximity to the microphone is quite a big factor, because this one's less forgiving for my head being in a weird position. Does that sound better? Tell me if it needs to get louder. But yeah, this is literally just a library that straight up executes JavaScript, full-on JavaScript parser. It doesn't by default have anything cool like an event loop, so you can't just use it as a replacement for Node.js, but what they do have is some packages that you can add in. So we're going to be looking at that in a minute. What I've been doing already, so I've already gotten a little bit of a head start on this, I'm going to be honest. What I've done is I've started morphing this into something more in line with what I want to have added. Just some minor changes, quality of life things, and the main bit is we're going to have some tests, because that's the huge missing thing here. So the breakdown of what this pull request has so far, because it's already done pretty much everything, is we've got this one file called casts, which is just doing a bit of translation between the JavaScript types, the underlying types that the library exposes, and converting those back out into the Go types that we're more familiar with in the Benthos world. So just some helpers here: get map from value, get map slice from value, things like that. As far as I'm aware, this is mostly just for parsing arguments in our custom JavaScript functions. And then they've got a little custom logger here, so this translates the Benthos internal logger into something that the JavaScript can call into directly. I'm assuming that connects with console.log, but that's to be found out. We've got the documentation here for the plugin. We've got the plugin implementation itself. So there's a couple to-dos here. I've already got in mind what I'm going to do here, but I don't know whether that's going to work. But I think I'm just going to use a pool for creating like the registry with all the functions in it, and then we just, rather than spinning that up every time we run a process, we'll just have them ready to use. One important feature of Goja, or I suppose one caveat of Goja, is that when you've got a executable virtual machine, you can't share that across coroutines. So you need to have some mechanism by which you're limiting either one VM and you're locking it, so only one coroutine can access it at a time, because Benthos processors by default can be executed by any number of go routines depending on what the config's doing, so we need to have some sort of protection around this. So either we can protect against one and we only have one allocated, or we'll do what I did with the WebAssembly processor, which is we've got the pool. Right, so the process bit's quite simple. It's just a bit of documentation. I will need to expand this so that we've got a full list of all the functions and things people can use. I'm probably not going to get all of this done in the next hour, which is how long I intend the stream to be. So, sorry in advance. But yeah, the rest of this, the bulk of it, is this file called vm.go, where they have created this virtual machine. They've done things like add require, the require keyword from Node.js, so you can import other things, which is pretty cool, I would say. And then they've added in the console bit, which that's the bit that I'm assuming it creates a console thing, and then maybe it doesn't hit our own logger actually. I don't know, yet to be determined. We've got these functions defined. So basically the way that this is going to work is you're going to be able to write some JavaScript and then have a Benthos processor use that JavaScript you've written for mutating messages as they flow through Benthos. That means you're going to have some ability to, within JavaScript, mutate the data. So that's going to be, and also query it, check metadata fields and stuff like that. So we're going to have to add in the functions that are going to allow you to access that. And the idea is, because there's only going to be one go routine accessing all the stuff at the same time, what we can do is for each message that's getting processed, similar to the WebAssembly stuff, we can just jerry-rig all the functions to specifically point to the message that's currently being processed. So it's kind of like you got like this frame of a message every invocation of the JavaScript. One thing I'm not entirely sure of, maybe this will be answered already in the processor, is when you run it, there's a field called program. So we've got some code, so you can just define the code in line, or you can specify a file. I might keep it that way. Seems reasonable. And then we compile it, and then this is where they set the console. Okay, so I don't think it's that you define a specific function that you want to have the processor execute. It's just going to execute your entire JavaScript file every time, which is fine. Well, we'll find out. So yeah, I'm just going to make my minor alterations to this, the bits that I want to change slowly, and then we're going to have a look at adding some tests. It'll be a hoot. So this is the code. I've already made some slight alterations here. So the first bit, I'm going to see that all the documentation for these methods is currently in comment form, which we want to translate that to, it's actually in the docs that get generated rather than here, because this isn't accessible for people reading the website. Wait, by the way, we're not seeing your screen. Ah! Okay. You can see my screen now, right? That was an annoying blunder. Right, let me show you the PR. This is Kabuki's JavaScript processor 1406, if you want to follow that while I was blabbering. But yeah, this is my code here. What I've done is I've just got a local branch where I've just pulled this stuff in. I've done a little bit of a merge with main, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge this back into main and just attribute Kabuki once my stuff's done. But yeah, where was I before? So before I started the stream, I was just adding a bit of error handling to this stuff. The one other thing that is being done in this pull request that I'm not so sure of is that all the functions that we're providing users, so we've got here, one thing that's cool is they added a fetch function which does an HTTP call. I'm not going to put that in the global context because I think that's going to be confusing. Now repeat I'm not going to repeat everything. You should have said sooner, live people. But yeah, so we've got these methods like get meta and set meta and set root, get root, that sort of stuff. That's all fine, but rather than making those global functions, I think what I'll do is I'm going to put these within an object called Benthos, just so it's sort of namespaced, maybe even versioned, I don't know. The long-term thing to do would probably be to version it, and then we're not pulling the rug from out of people if we need to change some of the stuff without a major version release, which I've kind of done for the WebAssembly stuff. I'm just going to pull up the WebAssembly processor as like a comparison. So what I've done here is I've got all my functions defined, and I've put these in the global context just because with WebAssembly I didn't know how to do anything else. But what we've done here is we've got v0 underscore and then all the function names. So if we change stuff in the future, and we're going to change function signatures and things or behaviors, then what I'll do is I'll just increment the version number, and then it's not going to break people's programs. But yeah, in the JavaScript world, maybe we'll make it so that you would do things like benthos.getMeta. In which case, in order to version that, we can either go with benthos v0.getMeta, we could do benthos.v0, so it's its own object, its own namespace, getMeta, or we could do benthos.v0.getMeta. All ugly as sin. I don't know. Can you lot not chat in the Slacks and the Discords while this is going on? This is the canonical chat, is the live chat. Otherwise I've got to be opening several windows to catch up on all the latest gossip. I'm not going to be doing that. Or at least copy paste the Discord or Slack into the live chat so everybody can be a part of the experience. Actually no, because then... Okay, don't do that. Copy the Slack into the live chat and copy the live chat into the Discord, and then everybody has to join the Discord if they want to see everything. So what am I going to do now? Okay, I'm going to turn down the desktop music ever so slightly. Actually, no, I'll tell you what, I'm going to turn up the microphone by bringing it closer in, and then you can turn your sound down a little bit, because that doesn't sound quite right. Does that sound good enough, people? It's more useful if you give me a 0 to 10 rating on how good the sound is. And then I'll zero in on... I'm going to aim for 9. I'm not going to aim for 10. But yeah, I'll think about versioning. I might just do like a... I think I'm just going to go with the benthos underscore v0, get meta and all that stuff to begin with, and then... but then it's going to be there forever. Then it's going to live there forever. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat, please, what I should be doing here. And if you could copy paste in the code I need to write as well, that would also be useful, thank you. Yeah, okay, so the way that we're creating these functions, we're providing the virtual machine, the Goja runtime, and then calling this general set function thing. What I'm doing, so this is a bit different to what the PR was doing. The PR was just doing a global set of the function name. So it's like a global function that you call. So what I'm doing instead is what I should do is I should just define an object globally once, and then every set function is assigning to that object. But I'm also a little bit lazy, so maybe I won't do that. And what I'm doing instead is I'm getting a global object called Benthos. If that doesn't exist, I have no idea if this code works, by the way, because none of the methods in Goja are actually documented. So I have to like trawl through examples and stuff to figure out what's going on. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to write some unit tests and then see if things blow up. But yeah, so I see if there's a target object. If it comes back as nil, I might have to do a comparison against undefined there to see if this thing's already been defined. If it's nil, then I create the object and then I set the global blah, and then it's the target object where we set a field called name to our function definition. Now, Kai left a to-do here, which is if an error occurs within our function, what do we do? The proper JavaScripty thing, I would imagine, is to throw here, but I need to look that up and find out how you throw. Other alternatives are, rather than throwing, an option would be to just set an error on the global message, but I don't really like that because I want you to be able to control error behavior from inside your JavaScript. So I think I'm going to try and find a way of throwing in here. Whether that's possible, I don't know. Because we've got a function call, which has all of our arguments and such, and then we've got this separate runtime. I don't think RT has anything like throw in there. Maybe if I panic. That's naughty. You can do, interestingly though, you can do a new Go error, which creates an object. Let's have a look at what that does. Creates an error. Huh. I don't know what that's doing. But yeah, we'll worry about that later. For now, I'm going to call it Benthos underscore v0. Function context name. Just going to keep this somewhere. Ah. Function context name. Tell you what, just to really help me out in the future, I'm going to call that V0 fun context name. Function definitions. Okay. So what we have right now is we've got a bit of error handling now around these set functions, which I think is important because obviously if that doesn't work, it's not necessarily going to be helpful to people who are running Benthos because they can't do anything about it, but it will help me in my unit tests to see if these are causing errors or not. I'm not getting any sound feedback, so Somebody needs to step in and give me a sound rating. Matt was whinging about it. Give me an out of 10. If you've given me an out of 10 on a different chat. Whatever. Okay. I think we can just try and run this. This is definitely not beta. This is experimental. So I'm going to remove the beta tag. Executes the provided JavaScript code. So I'm going to put a mention of the Goja library, but in a longer description. This processor is implemented using the no. Executes the provided JavaScript code, executes a provided JavaScript code block or file. Okay, we're getting crispness 10 out of 10, voice loudness 10 out of 10, music loudness 8 out of 10. Does that mean the music is too loud or not loud enough to reach 10 out of 10? Please be more specific. Right, so the things that we need to have in here, I'm just going to put some 2s. To do, add list of functions available. Add summary of what users can access and not access. So I think we don't have set timeout nor set interval because those require a bit more magic. Okay, music is a bit too loud. I'm going to reduce that down. How's that? Because again, I can just make my microphone louder. It's basically the same thing. Executes the provided JavaScript code or block. Right, so they need to know what are the functions available, sorry, what users can access and not access, console, etc. Because you know, there's going to be a lot of caveats. You're not just going to be able to like have your full Node.js application just run. So we just need to make that clear. What can people actually do and not do? For each message. That'll be enough for now. Now the question is, are we going to have batched support? So what I mean by that is, if messages have been batched up, so there's more than one logical message within a discrete transactional thing. Say we've like gobbled up 100 messages from Kafka and they're all in a logical batch like a window. Do we want to allow your JavaScript programs to do batchy things? Maybe, you know, aggregate or filter messages within that batch, or do we just want this to be specific to a single message? I think what I did with what I am doing with the WebAssembly stuff, I want this to look very similar to the WebAssembly stuff because I have a feeling people are probably going to try both a lot of the time. There's going to be a lot of people who will try out a WebAssembly plugin to see if they like it or not, and then maybe if they do, maybe if they don't, they'll have a little cheeky gander at the JavaScript one to see if that solves their particular use case. So I want them to kind of look and feel very similar, because there's no real reason why they shouldn't, so that people don't have to relearn a bunch of weird concepts. What I'm doing here is I'm supporting batch aware functions here. That's interesting. How does that work? Message set bytes, message as bytes, meta set meta, get meta. Okay, right. Yeah, okay, so okay, the WebAssembly stuff that we've got right now can support batch aware anything. So for example, we've got functions here for a specific message, so message set bytes, message as bytes. There's no reason why we can't add complementary functions like v0 message of batch as bytes, or we could add parameters to this as well, and then what you'd be able to do is get metadata or content of a specific message off the batch by its index, or get an aggregate of all the contents is from the specific view of a message. Very, very similar to how Bloblang works, because Bloblang is obviously framed by default from the perspective of a single message. I mean, I can show you this stuff. If we had kind of parity between Bloblang, WebAssembly, and JavaScript, and the awk processor as well, the awk processor kind of works something like this. I might redo some of the bits in awk and deprecate old stuff to also fit this. So in Bloblang, when you're running a Bloblang processor, by default everything is in reference to you mutating a single message and you're querying details of a single message. However, what you can do is you can use the from method to change the window to another message of a batch, and that is kind of like opting into windowed processing. We've actually got a document in the configuration section if you're interested in this and you have no idea. But basically what it means is that by default Bloblang looks, I'll tell you what, I can show off the shiny new plugin that George did. So if you've got some Java, some Bloblang here, you could do things like query the current batch index of the message that's currently being processed. So if you have a batch of 10 messages, this mapping is going to get executed for every single one of those messages, so executed 10 times. But what you can do is you can say, only execute this thing for one of those indexes. So if it's index 0, only execute this once for that. And what you can do is you can do a query. So for example, get the JSON field registration plate and call that from all. So in the context of all messages of the batch, you can also specifically access an index. So say like -1 would be the last message of the batch, but from all gives you an array back. And then you can do interesting stuff on that. So like for example, you could do sum and sum up all the passengers is what we're doing here. So it's kind of like by default you don't have to worry about batches, because most people are just doing single message transforms with this sort of stuff, so you don't really care that there's like multiple messages technically being looked at. But then what you can do is you can kind of opt in with these extra functions and things. So what I would probably do is gradually expand both the WebAssembly and the JavaScript processes to give you some sort of access to that stuff. But since we don't have that in the experimental first version of WebAssembly, I am not going to do it here. But what I will keep in mind is that as I'm expanding this implementation to support this stuff, it's important to ensure we could expand it to support batch stuff in the future. Who knows what will happen in the future? People are going to be batching all the time. They're going to have batches everywhere. Nobody's going to be a single. What a scary world. So how are we going to inject these messages? So we do a this VM. Yeah, we've kind of conflated creating a new runtime with enabling both require and console. That's heavy stuff that we probably won't want to do every message. Create a new instance of a JavaScript runtime that can be used to run code. Multiple instances may be created and used simultaneously. However, it's not possible to pass JS values across runtimes. That's okay. Thanks anyway. I'm going to call this something similar to what I've got in WebAssembly. So what I have is a module runner. So what I would call this is a VM runner, maybe? A VM runner. And where do I create this? So this is what I pull, and I've got a function called new module where I do all this stuff. It's much more complicated in WebAssembly because you have to worry about allocators and what a load of gross stuff. But what I will do is I'm just going to copy paste a load of stuff here. We don't need this after processing, but we do need the run batch, target message, target index. Maybe an error that occurs during processing. No, won't worry about that for now. And then we actually want the program itself, which is going to be a Gojo runtime. Should we just call it a runtime and not a VM? Is it referenced as a VM in other places, or? Let's have a look at the Gojo repo. Let's have a little look, see what they do. They seem to like calling their runtimes VMs, so I guess we can could do the same here. VM runner is unused. Should I implement the pool as well while we're doing all this? The pooling bit. Yeah, okay. Do I call it new? Yeah, new VM. And we will not be using that. And I'm going to copy paste a bunch of pull stuff that I have no business accessing. No business getting this. I'm going to change this to process batch now, so I don't forget. We're going to do a load of renaming. VM runner P. Basically, I'm desperate for anybody stumbling upon this code. I'm desperate for them to not see me as a dirty copy-paster. So my job right now is to make sure there's no evidence of copy-pasting. So I need to provide the registry and the logger, but because I've already made this an attachment of my JavaScript processor thing, I won't need to do that. No, that's not what I wanted to do. So the thing is with like massive pull requests, well, it's not massive, but pull requests that are kind of like quite a big deal. I have a tendency to bounce around a lot, so I'll start one thread and then I'll bounce to another one, do a bit more, bounce to another one, do a bit more, and end up with a bit of a mess. Check out Conk. It's quite nice for pooling. Oh! You showed me that before and I really did like what I saw, and now I'm a bit worried to actually do it, because then I'm having to learn another thing all at the same time. Look at all this red! Look at all these red squiggles we've got! George, do you really want to add more stuff? Do you really want to add more? I'm not too worried about just leaving stuff in a very broken state because there's no test yet. LOL. So when we actually run, create a new runtime and then we just go run on it, and that executes the actual program which we have extracted. So we've already done the compilation all within here. This might actually be a bit of a premature optimization. Maybe it's actually not a big deal to just remake a whole shebang. Whatever, I'm just going to go back to my copy pasting. This needs to be a batch processor now. My little baby's making noises. This needs to be tightened up a little bit. I'm doing so much copy pasting, I don't even know what I've copy pasted. When are they going to add a generic sync.pool? Or is that what Conk's for? This conch just obliterated that need. No. Variable, oh, it's because... Let's just call that VR. Don't worry about this, we're going to fix that later. We're going to fix that another time. And then what do? So I get a new thing from the pool. And then if anything doesn't work, I close it, that's fine. Do we need to do that here? I don't actually know if this needs any sort of cleanup. VM close? Does that even have a close method? It's not like we need to do any sort of cleanup afterwards, so don't have to worry about that. And then I do a bunch of stuff, and then I just return the thing. Cool, okay. Now, all these functions are going to need to be modified to exist within the context of this VM runner with the run batch target message target index, and then what I need to do is I need to add like reset to it, which is what I've done in the WebAssembly world. You've got a reset and run. Reset and run. Need to put all this out of the way. Oh, no, I don't need that. I just care about the reset and the run method. So reset all these back to 0. I'm going to get rid of those things. And then during our run, so what I need is access to the program itself. Yeah, p goja program. So create the virtual machine, enable thing, enable the console, blah, blah, blah. All of these functions are going to need to change slightly so that they are accessing, rather than just some abstract message that they've been provided, they'll be accessing the one within here and mutating it in situ. That's what we call it. So the only limitation as far as like batching behavior is concerned is you can do like a batch aware thing. Actually, but what you can't do is you can't expand or contract batches, breaking them out into multiple batches. So some process, for example, could take a batch of 10 messages and then yield 2 batches of 5 messages because it's determined that it's 2 groups. You know, like the group buys the processes that are kind of like of that nature. They can do like super batchy things. Whereas this is not going to do that because it's just too complicated. So I'm going to allow you to do like single message transforms where you don't care about the batch. You're going to be able to do some batch-y things, batch-ish stuff. But I draw the line. I'm sorry, I draw the line at doing hyper batchy things. So this is it. Basically, the meat of our process batch to do that function is we grab a VM runner from the pool, or we create one if we need to, and then we execute a new batch against that thing. That's all encapsulated within that runner, and then we're good. So what else do I need to do? During close, do we need to do any sort of cleanup? I don't really know. I'm going to add in a cleanup-y thing. Basically, what I do in the WebAssembly stuff, you have to clean up with the WebAssembly bits that we compile. And the way that works is we have a little for loop where we just loop obtaining things from the pool until we stop, and the pool isn't yielding anything anymore. It's very important if you're going to do something like that is when you instantiate your pool, you don't give it a new function, because otherwise it will just keep creating them and it's just an endless loop. I need to add a close method, but for now that's just going to be empty. Because we don't really have anything to do. I'm pretty sure we can just allow the garbage collector to do all the stuff for us. Right, okay, so in our run we finish with a reset. For every message of the batch we change the run batch target index target message. We run the thing. I don't need any after processing anything. So in the WebAssembly world, you have to make sure all the allocations and stuff get cleaned up. Oh god, it's a mess. Such a nightmare. The proc is because actually maybe we So in the WebAssembly world, there's multiple places where an error could manifest that is basically catastrophic. It essentially means that this WebAssembly is not going to execute, and that has to get captured by the runner thing. But the reality is we don't need to do that here. But I'll tell you what, for now we're just going to ignore the concept of program errors. Basically, if the program fails for any reason, then we'll exit run with an error, and then that returns an error in our process message function, and then all the messages of the batch will be treated as if they've failed. In the future, we could make this more granular. In fact, I'll put a little to do here. To do, make this more granular. Error could be message specific, which it entirely could be. It could be that your JavaScript fails for one message of the batch, but not all of them. So ideally, we would honour that, but it's fine to just set them all as errored for now. So that's all that stuff done. All I need to do now is anywhere where we're referencing message, we'll instead aim for target message. And that is something we could potentially compile now. Okay, so I think this still isn't quite what I want, because what I want to do is I want to pull out all these function definitions into some other helper method, because what I want to do is I want to do something similar to the Bloblang methods, where I can add a new method and describe what it is, and sorry, a new function, and describe what it is, add all the documentation for it in one code block that's not within a function and all that stuff. So I'm going to pull all of these definitions out into that thing, and that means that just when we add new stuff and document it, it's not going to be as big a hassle. So I'll do that after I've written some very basic tests, because I think that's the next pressing matter. I just need to make sure this actually runs. George says an instance of goja.runtime can only be used by a single Go routine at a time. You can create as many instances of runtime as that's not possible. Yeah. So that's what we need the pool for. So that we're not just executing one single one over and over and over again. The WebAssembly stuff is the same. We have like a runtime. I mean, even if we could execute these in parallel, we need to have all these function definitions specific to the single invocation, because we just want it to be executed for a specific message, and not, you know, have 10 things calling this runtime at the same time with their own messages, because you kind of have like you have a singleton essentially of what a message is. But the other way of doing things is to have a function call. I think it would be possible here actually, is you would have, essentially you would describe your program written in JavaScript has a function within it called process message, and then Benthos, every time a message comes through and the processor hits it, it would call that function with the message itself, or, you know, as some sort of like accessor, some object that encapsulates all these functions for accessing the message info, and then that program could be potentially invocated in parallel, but since Goja itself doesn't support that, it's kind of moot anyway. But if it were able to do it, then that's one approach we could potentially take. But I mean, I'm quite happy with something like this. This still isn't ready to go. Next step is add some unit tests, but I'm gonna not do that right now. I'm gonna go play with my baby. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Unless actually, don't like and subscribe if you're a piece of shit, if you're a scumbag, if you're filth. But otherwise, please like and subscribe. And I'll reappear at some point. I don't know when. I don't have a cold anymore, so I can just make a stream whenever, can't I? I can just do one anytime. Bye everyone. Thanks for being on this journey with me. We've had our ups and downs. We've had our trials and tribulations, but I really feel like as a community we've managed to overcome them, which I guess is the purpose of doing these things live. So thank you for being a part of that. Watch your back.